All right, welcome to another episode of Let There Be Talk. It is November 6th, a Monday, and I am on my way to New York City. Yes, indeed. Hope to see you guys out on the road this weekend. Lots of shows with my man Bill Burr, Norfolk, Virginia, Hollywood, Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, and Madison Square Garden in New York City. Yes, great shows winding down the year on the Bill Burr Arena Tour. Oh, by the way, if you've not seen his film, Old Dads, yet, do yourself a favor. It was number one 2 weeks in a row on Netflix, so tune into that. Welcome to the show, my friends, and thank you so much for always tuning in to Let There Be Talk. Great guest today right here. We have the amazing Duane Betts on. Duane Betts is the son of the legendary Dickey Betts from one of my favorite groups of all time, the Allman Brothers. I can't even tell you how much I love the Allman Brothers and the influence that they have given on generations of music, going back to one of my favorite records, Black Crowes Amorica. The song Wiser Time Alone is pure Allman Brothers flavor. And then, of course, all the groups I listen to now, including the great Marcus King. Duane Betts has an amazing record out right now. I absolutely love this record. I've been listening to it all weekend. I just got it. It came out in July. I had no idea. And speaking of Marcus King, he does a guest spot on the record. The record is called Wild and Precious Life, and he is out touring right now. He'll be in Los Angeles November 18th. Go see him if you are in the LA area. Man, this record's great. Check out his video too, Saints and Sinners. Just pure rock and roll flavor right here. You're just going to love it. We talk all kinds of stuff. Malibu, Whitestarr, early, some of his early influences and bands that he played in. Great guy. I was very happy to have him on, and it was a cool conversation. Guitars, a little bit of comedy, everything. Before I get into the episode, I want to say this episode is brought to you by my fantastic clothing sponsor, Standard and Strange. I will be stopping in there next Saturday to hang out with my man Neil and Jeremy. Go in there. They've got a shop in Oakland/Berkeley. They've got the New York one that's killing. Amazing. They got one out there in New Mexico. StandardandStrange.com. Tell them I sent you. Visit them on Instagram. I get all my denim, leather, and boots there, and they are just a one-stop shop. That's Gertie barking. That's Gertie saying hi to you guys. Gertie. Who's that, Gertie? Who's that? Gertie is becoming quite the guard dog in her older age. Good girl. All right, I love you guys. And don't forget Patreon.com/Dean Del Rey. I just put up a bonus episode. I talk all about my trip to the Hollywood Bowl to see Guns N' Roses. That is up right now. There's 143 bonus episodes on my Patreon, and I really appreciate everybody that is part of my Patreon. It means the world to me, and I want to give a shout out to some of the new Patreoners. Jody Bodden, thank you. Cam, George Muscotis, Joe Grippo, brand new Patreoners. Yes, patreon.com/Dean Del Rey. I also do live Zooms on there. Tour dates are at DeanDelRey.com. Like I said, Norfolk, Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, Hollywood, Florida, and New York City this week. Also, December 20th, I will be at the Irvine Improv headlining. And, November 17th, I think it is, I'm going to be in Vegas for the Formula One doing a show. And also in January, I'm doing a full week at the Comedy Cellar in Las Vegas. Okay, the candles are definitely lit today with a little southern rock right here coming to you Florida/Malibu, the great Duane Betts. Dig in, people. Fuck, I'm good. How are you, buddy?
Man, I can't complain. Just chilling, man, down in Florida.
Oh, you live in Florida?
Well, I live in between Jackson Hole and Florida. I grew up in Florida, so I'm down here visiting my dad, but my wife and I kind of have a place in Wyoming, and then we kind of shift home base down to here for the winter. So
Jackson Hole's nice. You ever see Nikki Sixx out there?
he's out there. I know I've seen him at the store once, but no, I haven't ever like hung out with him. But I mean, our friends or some of our friends know him and stuff. So
Yeah. How's your dad doing, man?
he's good, man. He's hanging in there, you know. I mean, he's getting older, so he's not in, you know, perfect shape, but he's his spirits are high, you know.
You think he'll play live again or no?
Probably not, no.
Yeah.
No.
What a bummer, man. That guy is high watermark for me, man. I've seen him many times, man. Oh my,
Yeah, one of the greats, man, for sure.
that's fucking putting it mildly. And it's funny because I was listening to your record, which, by the way, man, fantastic record. You've got a debut solo record coming out. What is it? Wild and Precious.
Wild and Precious Life. Yeah, yeah. It came out actually in July, but yeah, it's out right now.
I just heard it last night.
Yeah.
Sent it over to me, and I was like, "Wow, this is a fucking great record." I mean, you know, I'm good friends with Jakob Dylan, and there's that thing of, you know, the star's child, that kind of thing. Like, oh, well, they can't be good if their dad's this one or whatever. That's a bad fucking notion to have, and I think it's just because people just think that automatically. But Jacob carved his own career and wrote amazing songs. And I'm listening to this record, and it is fucking smoking. And you're coming from, you know, your father being Dickey Betts and the Allman Brothers, and being around that. You could either rebel against that, where you're like, ah, fuck that, that's my dad's shit, I'm into hip hop or whatever, or you can get into, you know what
Well,
I
I
mean?
like hip hop. I like hip hop too, but I don't think you know, I don't think I'm much of a rapper, but I like a lot of stuff that has nothing to do with that music, you know, with my dad's music. But you know, I mean, I am who I am, so I just try to be authentic to, you know, what's ingrained in me, and how I play, you know, is not totally different than that, you know. I mean, I suppose I could do a goth record. My next record, I could do like start singing like you know, Robert Smith or something, and you know, and I love that stuff. Like I love The Cure. I love, you know, but it's just not, that's not me, you know.
It's amazing though how authentic this record sounds, and it was blowing my mind last night.
I love it. I mean, that's what we wanted to get across, was just, you know, really kind of capturing the essence of the sound and the songs and the story and the feeling of you know, it has kind of an old Florida kind of, you know, because my family, my dad and his granddad, and you know, come from kind of that side of the family's been down here for a while. And you know, I recorded the record at Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi's place up in Jacksonville, because that's north of where I am right now. That's in like northern Florida. So yeah, I mean, it kind of has that bloodline running through it. But there's a lot of different flavors on it.
Oh man, I mean, you know, it's got the soul of Blue Skies. You know, it's just in there. And what's really amazing to me is, I know you did it on 2-inch tape and everything, but you really captured just the authentic tones and the whole flavor of a great 70s record, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you get a bunch of good musicians in a room, and just try to capture the magic and try to capture great performances, you know. And that's kind of how we went about it. I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way, but that's kind of how it set itself up to be. I just had a lot of confidence in the rhythm section and the musicians as a whole to get a lot of it on the spot, you know. And you know, some songs really kind of yearn for capturing it live. When you have a jam and you kind of want to capture the interplay between the musicians on the spot, and other tunes can kind of, you can go in and recut the solos, and it kind of makes more sense. But yeah, I mean, we had a lot of fun making it. I had Tyler Greenwell from Tedeschi Trucks Band and on drums, and Barry Dwayne Oakley on bass, and Johnny Statula on guitar, John Ginty on keyboards, and then a whole bunch of guests. So
it's so cool that all of the Allman Brothers kids actually can play. Are there any that suck? Because I haven't seen any that you know what I mean? Like,
no, I mean, I don't think so. I think everybody definitely has their place as a, some of us have different strengths than others, like, no, none of them suck. That's my final answer. No, they're really, I mean, there aren't the ones so, I mean, they just don't play. I mean, I don't know who, I can't name all the kids. I mean, I don't really care, but there's a lot of them that play, and they're talented, and that's nice.
Yeah, it's amazing. Also, you got graced with the voice too, because like we all know, you can learn the guitar and stuff, but if you don't have the voice, then you're kind of screwed. And then you're a great guitar singer.
Well, it's better to have, I mean, if you can write, sing, and play, then I mean that's a triple threat. I mean, I'm working on it. I started singing much later, and I'm still trying to learn how to sing. Playing guitar comes a lot more naturally to me. I'm more comfortable. Yeah, I mean, it's not about being like the most technically great singer, but I mean, you just want to learn how to deliver the songs and get the point and the sentiment and the raw emotion across, and that's what's really important. I mean, you want it to be like in pitch and stuff. You don't want to just be completely out of key. But yeah, like a Townes Van Zandt, he's somebody that has great words, not the greatest singer, but it's so authentic and it's real, and there's people that can kind of sing a little bit that don't have that quality. So
yeah, I mean, it's like Tom Waits. He's not fucking, he's not going to be on The Voice, but he's fucking,
yeah,
he's got so much goddamn soul and vibe coming out. I saw Nick Cave last week, and the guy, when he opens his mouth, you're just like, I'm fucking in. It's just amazing.
Exactly. Yeah, it just draws you right in. So yeah, I mean, those guys would be like the top of, like, the example that we're giving, that's the definition of it, or people like that. So I mean, you have a long way to get to before you can be Tom Waits, but yeah, that's what you strive for. You strive to just bam, like, draw them in with a great song, and the voice it's like it draws them right in. And so yeah, I mean, that's something I tried to work on, and I think the growth is evident. I think people that have followed me, they could probably see some growth in that department.
I first heard about you years ago from Whitestarr.
Oh yeah,
I was out there living.
Yeah, man.
And there were bands like Whitestarr and Star Gun Shooters bands. And there were these bands that had like these kind of star children. They were all playing rock. It was kind of like a Malibu / Hollywood scene going on.
Yeah, Whitestarr was a lot of fun, and it was a good rock and roll band. But we were on Atlantic when I was in the band. I left the band after the band kind of took a break, and then I went on it and started playing with my dad, and kind of didn't go back to LA when the band reformed. And there was a lot of stuff going on around that time. And I was in my 20s, and I was dealing with addiction, and it was a lot of fun had during that time, but it was definitely like a Malibu / Hollywood band. That was like, definitely, that's a good way of putting it. I was in a band before that called Backbone, and Alex Orbison, Roy Orbison's son, who was in Whitestarr, we both were in, and Damon Webb too. He doesn't have a famous musician father, but he is. I mean, it's not as noteworthy, but he was in Backbone as well and was in Whitestarr. So us three, Alex, Damon, and myself, were kind of had a nice little run there with two bands. The first band broke up because our I mean, I don't want to bum everybody out, but our singer passed away in a car accident. But that was a really great band. Backbone was a really great band. We made one record in Nashville, and it's on Spotify. It's very like underground. It's not, people don't really know about it, but Chris was like if Whitestarr was a Malibu slash Hollywood or Hollywood slash Malibu band, Backbone was a Malibu slash Malibu band. And when I say Malibu, people don't really know, Malibu now is a bit different than it was. Like, it's kind of to explain like what people call old Malibu, is you kind of have to just know what that is. I couldn't really explain it, but it's not like mansions and Mercedes Benzes. It's like riding horses to the bank and, doing mushrooms,
Yeah.
surfing under a full moon and driving hot rods and, and it's kind of an anti Hollywood, thing that those kids had. And we were all kids then, so it was kind of cool. So here I am coming from Florida, but I also grew up in Malibu. I moved there when I was 12, so I had roots there too. And then I came back here and grew up touring with my dad through my high school years, and my mom lived out in LA, and I'd visit and go back and forth. But it led me back to Malibu, and I had a great time, and I still have so many friends there and consider it home, even though I don't have a place there right now.
I absolutely love it, man. I mean, Malibu 20, 25 years ago, it's like the Malibu Inn, Chris Robinson doing gigs,
Exactly. Yeah, those were the days. And I mean, people will even say before that were the days. But I mean, for me, I mean, the summer of 1999 was one for the ages. It doesn't really get much better. It was like we had our tribe, and wherever we went, we all went. It was all for one for all. So it was a good time. But
when I think about Malibu, I think about Tom Petty, I think about the Wilburys, and I think about Neil Young on the beach. When I am out there, I forever feel those vibes in me. And Chris Robinson's solo band, not CRB, but the one he did after Black Crows, when he was out there. And all of that out there is just that old school vibe. People, like you said, they've got like vintage cars. They rarely wear shoes, but not in a hippie way. It's just kind of like freedom out there. It's wild.
yeah, that's the vibe. Yeah, so it, and people probably get that. Sometimes people get it. They just think it's all. I mean, it is a lot of rich people.
Yeah.
And you do have to have a lot of money to like buy a house there.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of my friends, I mean, they've lived there since their families got property in the 1940s or something. And I mean, one of my friends, his mom was like a drag racer, and they have like, they grew weed on their property, and like, but meanwhile, they have this acre of land in Malibu, like with an ocean view worth God knows how much, and it's just like a full on, it's like, I mean, that's how it is, they got the land early.
Yeah, don't hate on the people because they wanted to live away from the lunacy of Hollywood, but be a stone's throw away. It's always been magic, and I feel like there's something out there, man, that creates incredible music, spilling off Topanga Canyon and all of that whole area. And I do respect a lot of the kids that grew up out there, because a lot of them did shit with their lives. They could have just cashed in on, living off their parents' money. But instead, a lot of them became musicians and actors and went on to make great fucking shit, man.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, my mom always used to say, I mean, I grew up in Florida, which is a lot. I didn't grow up in the LA world, but I do know it really well. I have spent a lot of my time out there, and I did come up in Malibu, and I was around that, and I know, my mom always used to say, I mean, well, Duane's pretty low on the totem. I mean, some of the people's parents are like super uber famous, you know what I mean? And it's like, I mean, it's like, and how, really wealthy, and so that was never quite the world that I was my reality. I mean, I'm not to say I'm not very fortunate and very blessed, but you know, so yeah, I mean, I would look, and yeah, you see some of the people, they just don't have to work, and they don't do anything and don't need to, and they just go surfing, and that's great, Um, and then, but you're right, a lot of people did do a lot of great shit, and you know, I mean, my friend Cisco Adler is somebody who works really hard and always is coming out with a new idea, and his father obviously, did really well, and they have they have means, but he's a hard worker, and he's somebody that I really respect, that kind of grew up in Malibu, but is always doing something, always creating, always working. And so, Alex Orbison, I mean, I have a lot of friends that, lifelong friends that are, and the bottom line is, I mean, we didn't really, back in those days, I mean, we didn't really care like what your parents did, or, I mean, it was just all about, the hang and good vibes. It wasn't about, no one really cared. Other people seemed to care more than we did. We didn't give a damn.
When you were young and you're growing up obviously around your dad, you're out, sometimes I guess I would imagine out on Allman Brothers tours and stuff. At what point do you say, you know what, I want to start playing guitar?
That's a good question. I actually, and I've gone over this like a lot of times, but since we've never spoken, you wouldn't know. But I started out as a drummer when I was like super young, like 5, 6 years old. My dad had a ukulele, and he put a ukulele in my hands, and tried to move my little fingers around and to show me some stuff, and it seemed incredibly difficult, and I didn't want anything to do with it, and I told him I wanted to play drums. So he got me a little makeshift drum kit from the rehearsal space they had, and some like just miscellaneous drums that weren't being used, and threw together something for me, and I started playing, and I practiced religiously and got really good at it, and started sitting in with his band, with the Allman Brothers. Of course there's two drummers, so you don't have to you know hold the whole thing together as the drummer, so it was a lot less pressure than, say, stepping up later, when I would step up and do a guitar solo for the first time in the spotlight. That's a lot more pressure. But yeah, so I played drums until I was about 13. And then when I was 13, I switched over to guitar. Once I started playing with some of my buddies in Florida, once I had moved back to Florida, we had like a little garage band, and we'd practice every weekend. And I'd play drums and they'd play guitar, and then we'd take a break, and I kind of started seeing what they were doing. I was like, I think I can do that, what they're doing. And I started picking stuff up. And then it just became a passion, just listening to records and learning, and learning stuff by ear. And then I sat in with Allman Brothers when I was 15 for the first time out in Vail, Colorado, and got a few of those sit-ins under my belt. And then it went from there. I started sitting in more pretty frequently. And then by the time I was 18, I was out in California again. And then like I said, I joined Backbone, and then, and so forth and so on. But yeah, I definitely was really, really privileged. I'm pretty aware of that, being around my dad and also Warren Haynes every night. During the time I was out, Warren was in the band. It was my dad and Warren were the guitar players. And I'd ask Warren stuff, and I just listening to them every night really kind of rubbed off on me, hopefully in some good ways. But
that Warren era, man, I must have seen him maybe 20 times. That's really where, of course, the first wave with Duane and all of that was, I was too young, but by the time Warren gets in and Soulshine comes out,
yeah, man,
it's just Mach 2 for me. That, what was that, the second set or whatever, the two albums that are blue and red.
Yeah, well, they call that. There's like a nickname that the fans give to that era. It's like I can't play. It's like the golden era. Yeah, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, they have a name for it. I guess the golden era would be like the
first.
The resurgence. I mean, we call it the resurgence. The golden era of the resurgence. But yeah, I mean, we could go on talking about that band for
yeah,
for hours. I know a lot about it, but
yeah. Once you start playing guitar, were you destined to try? Were you listening to other styles and stuff, or was it like?
Oh, I was listening to everything. Yeah, I was listening to. A lot of what I was listening to around that time was contemporary. Well, I was listening to a lot of stuff, but some of what I was listening to was the contemporary stuff that was just coming out, like rock, like Nirvana and Smashing Pumpkins. That was the stuff that was coming out that I was drawn to as, a 13, 14-year-old kid, And before that, I went through like a metal phase, and, I was always into rap, I liked Run DMC, when I was like 7. And I don't know what my earliest stuff was, but when I started playing guitar, yeah, I was really into Nirvana and Alice in Chains and all of that. Billy Corgan and the Pumpkins were probably my number one, but I was really into a lot of the shoegaze, like kind of dream pop, like
Weezer.
Alternative stuff. And Weezer I wasn't so into, but Weezer's great, but I wasn't religious about them. But yeah, I was also listening to Albert King and Stevie Ray Vaughan and Freddie King and, John Coltrane and Miles Davis and Django Reinhardt and, Pink, obviously all the classic rock stuff. I was listening to the Beatles and Pink Floyd and you get into funk, and then I was went down a funk rabbit hole, an R&B, like 60s soul music. You just go and listen to everything.
There was a year where I just listened to Curtis Mayfield only.
Curtis Mayfield, I picked up. It was it might have been a CD. I don't know if it was a tape or a CD. It was probably a CD because I was listening to CDs at this point. But it was like the cheap bin. It was like a on sale thing, and it was the live at the Curtis live at the bitter end.
Yeah.
And that one changed me. Like that one, just hearing that band and the way they played together, just kind of sounded like they were all just sitting on stools. Like it was kind of like and then later Bill Withers live at Carnegie Hall is another one. They were kind of had that same kind of like they're all close together sitting on stools, and it sounds like that. Both of those sound like that. But Curtis is one of my favorites. Even the stuff with the impressions, the everything. And I've yet to, there's records that they do later that, it's like any band, some of the records you're not quite as, maybe you have your favorites and maybe you have ones that aren't quite, you don't dig quite as much, but there's still, yeah, he did a lot of stuff and there's still more to uncover. I still have yet to uncover, there's stuff that I probably should listen to is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, you get the Curtis Mayfield box set and you were done,
Well, I had that when I was 16, so I already did that. But
yeah,
when you go and listen to the actual records that he put out, like I don't know the names of all of them, but yeah, Curtis is great. Marvin Gaye, I don't know. you can just go on and on.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that has to do with that Florida, they call it Southern rock or whatever, but it's kind of Southern soul rock to me. It has so much gospel and R&B.
Well, the Allman Brothers Band is a lot more Southern soul than, say, Leonard Skinner. Leonard Skinner's more, I don't know. I mean, yeah, they both sound Southern. I mean, but yeah, I guess if you're talking in like really wide terms, I mean, it's the same kind of music, but it's definitely it's a different thing. It's a lot different actually.
Well, the Allman Brothers are the Holy Grail, so it's just,
Yeah, they play different. I mean, they just do. It's just different. They approach but man, the early Skinner, that Skinner band, man, I never liked Skinner it's funny, I never got into them until I moved to Malibu, until I started hanging out with all these surfers in Malibu that loved Skinner around when I was like 19. When I joined Backbone, basically, is when I got really into Skinner. And I was like, oh yeah, this shit is great. You're right. Because I always looked at it like, it's like, why does my dad's band get lumped in with them? Like they're different. The Allman Brothers are way more like psychedelic and like sophisticated, like, and have like this kind of a little bit of a Grateful Dead thing, like mixed in with like their style. And I was like, and Leonard Skinner, it's not that. And then, when I grew up, I was like, these guys in Malibu just religiously were listening to Skinner and like Hendrix and whatever. There's a lot of great music, but I was like, okay, yeah, they're great.
I love them both. I love them both, but you know how
Yeah, it's different.
lazy people are lazy. It's like grunge. They just call anything grunge that came out in 91, 92, whatever, it's, they gotta have some kind of label to sell it,
Yeah, of course.
They're both equally mind-boggling to me because you think about being out in Florida or Atlanta, Georgia, you're not even near the music scene. Tom Petty, same thing. And then you create something and then it just becomes this whole thing of like, oh, the Florida scene, you're like, what scene? There's like two bands, but yeah, I love them both, man. Their work ethics were amazing. Their songwriting was insane, and the guitar playing was just beyond.
Yeah, I mean, it's two great bands for sure. You can't argue with that.
Yeah, and look what we got from it. We got people like you, Marcus King. I just did a 2-month tour with Marcus King. I think he's one of the greatest.
Oh, you were on, that was you. That's cool. Yeah, Marcus is great. He's on my record.
Oh, he is.
Yeah, he's on a song called Cold Dark World. Yeah, Marcus is on it. Derek Trucks is on it, and Nikki Bloom is on it.
Oh, Nikki, yeah, old friend of mine.
Yeah, Nikki Bloom's amazing. I play with sometimes when I play with Phil Lesh, she plays with Phil a lot. So we've done gigs with Phil together, and she's fantastic. She's a good friend of ours. So, and then I also had my wife and I started a music festival actually this last summer called Horseshoe Music Festival, and we did the inaugural festival in Jackson Hole.
Oh, wow.
Just this last Labor Day weekend. And I haven't announced, we're going to do it again this next year. And I think we might even do more than one. So, but we haven't announced that yet, but that's very exciting. So I have a bunch of friends, just come, and we did 3 nights of curated music. We did an Americana / band tribute to Robbie Robertson night, and we did a Dead Almonds night, and then we did a kind of New Orleans funky rhythm and blues night, and we had George Porter Jr. as a guest.
Yeah, funky meter style out there.
Yeah, we did. We had a really great time, so I'm looking forward to doing that this next year. And
you need a comedian, let me know. I'll come out there if I can tell some jokes.
Actually, yeah, that would be great. Actually, thank you for. I'll bring that up in our next meeting.
At what point do you start to get into you know, the alt country where you Wilco Sunvolt going down, because that hit me really heavy, you know, Lucinda Williams, Car Wheels on a Gravel Road, all of that. Because some of this, a little bit of your record had a little bit of Sunvolt flavor to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Sunvolt. I don't know all of their records, but I mean, I remember Sunvolt when I was 16 or something, and my dad really liked it. It came on MTV or something, and I've always liked Sunvolt. Um, Wilco, I love. I'm a big Jeff Tweedy fan. I'm a big fan of his writing and a huge fan of the band, you know. And obviously Lucinda's great. So I don't know. I'm looking more towards the next one. I really like the record that what I've heard off of the new Wilco record too. It's got kind of this avant-garde kind of art pop, art folky kind of thing. I think that Kate what who's the producer? The girl that I like her a lot too. The girl that she's an artist, but she produced it.
Oh, wow.
And Kate, I could look it up on my phone right now, but anyway, she's great too. And I think they're all like part of the same crew now, and they like her, and they brought her on to do their record and blah blah blah. But yeah, I'm digging that. I'm digging like Lucas Nelson is great. I just sat in with him the other night down here in St. Pete. You know, it's about 45 minutes an hour from where I am right now. He was in town and he invited me to sit in, and that's really great. You know, just people like that. I mean, I like a wide variety of stuff, but
What about amps? What do you rock? Because I see you play the gold top. I saw the video. The video is cool, and you're rocking a gold top on that. But over the years, I know your dad, he changed amps all the time. Marshalls, Diesel, you know, Mesas, all kinds of stuff. But he always sounded exactly like him. What do you go
yeah.
for amps?
On the record, I'm playing through a deluxe reverb, one of Derek's deluxe reverbs that just sounded perfect. Like it was a really great sounding amp, and we just had it sounding great. And I didn't hardly use anything, no effects, no pedals with it. I mean, I used a fuzz pedal on one song, and I used a boost on a couple things, but a lot of it was just straight into the amp. Live, I typically play through a super reverb,
Oh, wow.
which is more amp. But I mean, I'm always down to try new things. But I'm also once I find something that works, I kind of stick with it. A good sounding super and the gold top I have, it works.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing better than a super reverb. Unless you have a sound man going, can we turn the amp down a little? Can we turn the amp down a little? Okay.
Yes, exactly.
It's so weird where we're at now. You know, like when I started, it would be Marshall stacks. Then it went to Marshall half stacks. Then it went to, you know, matchless combos. Then it went to, you know, Tweed Victorian Deluxe. And now it's like, you know, 13-watt amps up there. People are like, hey, can you turn that down? The stage volume's real loud.
We crank them up and baffle them and put plexiglass in front of them,
Yeah.
so the sound can get. Oh, we don't put a really tall baffle, like, so I like the sound to get over it to where I still feel connected to it. But if you put something in front of it, you can kind of the sound doesn't just go all right out front and into the mics, and I mean, the sound men say it helps just kind of get a good sound. So I mean, I try to keep the stage. I mean, look, if you're playing like a tiny place, I mean, you got to turn down at some point. But a lot of that you can do with the music we play. There's a certain amount of that you obviously do with the guitar. I mean, you can still have the amp up, and then when you go to play a solo, the solo can be loud. But yeah, I tend to play pretty loud, dynamic but loud, you know. And when I have a good sound man, and if he's saying that if he's getting it to sound right and getting the vocal on top, then I'm cool with it if he is.
So anyway, speaking of live, you're going to be playing in LA. I wanted to go. I think it's on the 18th, but I'm fucking got a gig in Vegas. Let's talk a little bit about that. And are you going to be touring the solo record, or are you going to be doing Allman?
I've been touring a ton on it I mean, since it came out in July. So we've got a lot in the rear view mirror that we've already done, but we're doing this next run is a West Coast run, and we're sharing the bill with our friends GA20. They're a really, really great band, kind of like a hip blues band, like rock and blues, kind of just good music. So you should check them out if you haven't. But yeah, the Los Angeles show is actually at the Regent Theater, and it's actually a festival. It's called Smokestack Lightning Festival, and there's a bunch of great artists. It's 2 nights. I think North Mississippi All Star headlined the second night, and I think the record company headlines the first night, and that's the night we're on. Us and GA20 are on the same day, and then we go down to San Diego the next day. But yeah, I mean, all of my dates for anything I'm doing, whether it's my band, which is Duane Betts and Palmetto Motel is what I call it for live. The record's just under my name, but that's kind of the focus right now. But anything else I do, whether it's Oteil and Friends, whether I'm guesting, playing with Oteil, or if I'm playing with Phil Lesh, or if I'm playing with Allman Betts Band, which is obviously one of my projects. Any of that stuff is on my website, duanebetts.com. Also, we're doing Allman Betts Family Revival this November and December, which is kind of, and it started out as a nod to Greg Devon. Allman started it for his father when his father passed away, and I've been a part of it every year. And then we formed Allman Betts Band together, and so forth and so on. But this year, I thought it was appropriate. We both thought it was appropriate to include my father, since it's kind of an Allman Brothers tribute, and my dad's one of the primary songwriters. Either Greg or my dad wrote the Allman Brothers songs are pretty much written by one or the other. So we're going to do a set of Greg penned tunes and then a set of Dickey penned tunes this year, and have a bunch of special guests like we always do, and it'll be fantastic. So that's on sale too.
And where's that going to be?
That's primarily on the East Coast. Usually we go coast to coast on that the last few years, but this year it just worked out to where it made sense to keep it more located on the East Coast, in the kind of Midwest, kind of Southeast. So it's like 18 shows, and then I'm gonna get off that and then start writing a new record. And then I have a couple, like I'm doing Dead Ahead, which is the that's the Dead and Company thing down in Cancun that they changed the name of it from Playing in the Sand to. I love the Grateful Dead. There's so many like clever things they can do with their, hey, let's start a Tropical Destination concert. What do we call it? How about Playing in the Sand? Because we have a song called Playing in the Band. Like, it's just perfect.
I love Dead and Company, man. I saw them like 16 times.
Yeah, I've been touring so much over the last, I mean, not COVID because no one was touring, but since 2018, I've been touring so much, I haven't really gotten to see them. But I saw them in New Year's Eve. I saw them at the very beginning at the Forum, New Year's Eve going into 2016.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So that was like really at the beginning. That's the only time I've seen him, and I'd love to see him again, but I guess I missed it. But
yeah, it's interesting, man, to watch that band, because from 16 to I went to the last gigs, how much they changed and how much they just got so fucking incredible. It was wild.
Yeah.
The last tour was just mind-boggler to me.
Yeah.
Once they get on drums.
Yeah, I knew it kind of, playing with Oteil. I mean, we get to kind of talk about stuff like that, and he was like, man, I just finally just learned that, yeah, I'm going to play it like this. This is how I'm going to play it, because no one wants to, and not that he does this, but you don't want somebody to try and perfect the style of Phil Lesh or perfect the style of Jerry. You know, I mean, all of those guys want somebody to play how they play. They want them to play with the in that spirit and retain the principles of that music and definitely respect that style. You know, I mean, you don't want to go in there and not play any Jerry lick. You know, but but he just was like, man, I was just bringing funk. I was just like, I was funking it up, you know.
He was great. One point I sat on the stage about 2 feet away from him, and I was just
Yeah.
jaw dropping on that guy. He said his demeanor and his vibe, he just seems to float around earth, just like, hey, all right. You know, like when you see him, you're like, everything's gonna be okay. You know?
He's yeah, no, he's really great, and he's a really nice guy and such a gifted musician, you know. He's really fun to play with, and he makes everybody feel included and part of. He's really good, like about he wants to play a song, you know. He'll want to learn your song to play it in his set, you know, with his band, you know. It's like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm down. So that's really cool.
Great talking to you. And you got a fantastic record. And I hope to see you live. You know, I'm like you. I'm on the road all the time, and once in a while I get lucky, and I'm like, damn, I can go see it. You know, but I'm sure I will see you soon somewhere out there, and I'll spread the word.
We'll yeah, we'll hook up at some point and hell, maybe we'll get you out at the festival, you know.
That'd be great, man. Just go out there,
Yeah.
tell some fucking jokes, and watch some rock and roll, man. There's nothing better.
Right on, man. Well, have a good one and everybody take care.
Yeah, yeah. Once again, the record is called Wild and Precious Life. Video right now, Saints and Sinners. You can see it everywhere. And go to his website, DuaneBetts.com. Get the tour dates. Go see the Allman Betts Band or Duane solo, anywhere out there. And thank you so much for doing the show, brother.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Have a great weekend, huh?
Peace.
See ya.